The next time you drive down 95 South in Maine, look to the left before the West Falmouth exit. There at the top of the valley, you will see the Melchevsky's barn. And from the highway, you can see a large chicken coop and the vines that cascade down the hill beside it. On Hurricane Road in West Falmouth, Maine Coast Vineyards was born. Steve Melchevsky is a man about wine. He owns and runs a national wine distributor in Maine called USA Wine West. Further, Steve creates a wine in California, Spain, and Italy to be sold in the U.S. to be consumed with lobster, called Big Claw. Professionally, Steve's wine career takes him all over the world. But more privately, Steve Melchevsky has brought his love for wine back to Maine. Steve and his wife Nancy grow grapes in their back garden in West Falmouth, Maine. And in the harvest season of 2019, VineTime TV were invited to tour Maine Coast Vineyards in Falmouth with the Melchevskys.
How did you get started here at Maine Coast Vineyards? Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, so we planted our first block of vines here in 2000. In 2000.
Oh,
yeah. Then we added, we've experimented with a few things. Like out of Minnesota, I became friends with a grower there who sent us up a little Sabravois, some sticks in the mail, and we kind of stuck a couple of Sabravois. And I really feel like, we have a pretty, it's really been a fairly healthy grape. I kind of like the quality of it. We've got a lot of, we have a good harvest of it many times. But we only have maybe 10 vines of it, so it goes into the overall blend. But I think in some ways I consider this to be there aren't many people who really have done a lot of work here in the state in terms of figuring out what variety actually works.
Sure.
And so we've tried to plant a lot of different things.
Okay.
Yeah. In our vineyard, because we recycle, we compost and reuse, the wild yeasts are now inherent in this vineyard.
Sure,
and
sure.
so I'm certain that we could probably ferment that way. We make such small quantities of wine, you hate to make a mistake because wild yeasts are iffy.
Oh, absolutely. And then if it goes bad, it goes bad.
It goes bad, there's nothing you can do. You just lost your whole year's worth of work.
And it's too bad maybe you could just do a small bit of it.
Yeah. The thing about Maine and growing grapes, in my opinion, is that you have to get as much sunlight on the grapes as you can because we're in such a limited growing area. There's some people who grow these things called Frontignac. And Frontignac, everybody goes, oh, sugar's so high. Yeah, it does, but it really doesn't ripen until late October. And we frequently don't make it till late October. So the acidities in that grape stay so high. And that's the balance that we're fighting, trying to get physiological ripeness of the grape, where I like to harvest not on sugar here, but on flavor. Seed color. Are they crunchy seeds? Are the tannins mature? Is there a flavor in the grape? That's how we harvest here, not on sugar. The sugars might be 14 bricks and we can bump them up with cane sugar if we need to, chapitalize them. Last year, we didn't have to chapitalize at all and we had natural sugars between 11 and 12.5%. So that's pretty cool, but that's an unusual year. Usually it's a little lower. Yeah, usually it's more like 9, 10. So a little bit of chapitalization is a good thing.
Getting back to biodynamics, so you know how with biodynamics normally what to do is they plant cherry trees. But you have fruit trees, which is interesting. They normally plant cherry trees, and what happens then is the birds go after the cherries and the vines.
So we actually planted the first block of the vineyard biodynamically. And I sat out there and stirred the cow horns and this and that. And we had 2 little kids. They were babies. And we were trying to do this biodynamically, and it was it's a lot of work. And one day I come in and my wife says to me, she goes, guess what? I planted all the root vegetables today. I got it perfect. I look at the calendar and I got it perfect.
3 o'clock. I waited for 3 o'clock.
And I said, it's not a root day. It's a bloom day.
No. It was supposed to be 3 in the morning. I was like, that's it.
That's it. We're not doing that anymore. If you want this marriage to survive, we are not doing biodynamics here. End of story.
Organic.
I put away the calendar and said, okay, that's fine.
Organic is great. No spraying, this, that, and the other.
This was an old chicken barn. Literally, there were 12,000 chickens in here the day we closed on this property. We have a pad off the back that we can crush and process and drain and things that kick into the septic system. So it's a pretty integrated space and pretty easy to work with. Part of it is my wife's art studios right next door if you want to peek in there. The interesting thing about the red varietals here in general, you have to have skin contact with a red grape in order to get the red color. That's the way vinifera, normal vinifera grapes work. With hybrid grapes, the pulp actually has a color to it. So you don't really need skin contact. We had 0 skin contact with this. So yeah, so it's got a nice light color. You know, pretty, it's pretty color. It has a little bit of strawberry to it. It's a little heavier than the stuff from the other benchland, but yeah, it's coming along great. Coming along great, really. It's really very nice. It's what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a nice acidity, but it's not.
So slight frizzante.
Yep, a little. Well, that's because it's in tank and it needs to blow off when you. So there's a little bit of residual carbon dioxide post fermentation, which will get blown off during bottling.
Sure.
So, but yeah, but there's a little bit of fritz to it, spritz. Yep.
For sure.
Which I kind of like. And then let's get another glass.
Yeah, this one was yours.
It's okay.
Field blend of all of
So I can tell you, so this is primarily La Crescent. That's one of the bigger varieties we have in here. We also have some St. Pepin in the blend. A little bit of Aurora, which is an old, the old mainstay of the upstate New York champagne industry, the sparkling wine industry.
really nice. Sure.
Is this good? Yeah.
Let's get it in the bottle.
Yeah. So I find it has a little bit of white pepper in the nose. I don't know if you picked that up. There's a little bit of this white peppery thing.
No, I got a lot of fruit in the nose, though. It's really fruity.
Yeah.
Almost stone fruit and melons, almost a little bit of melons.
So we only make wines from what we grow here, or that we grow. That's it. We don't bring in any other blending wine or anything else. It's just, I wanted to do something that was reflective of Maine, reflective of the soils. It has made it a challenge economically. So it's not a full-time job and can't be. But I'm hoping that maybe in another 20 years or 30 years that this is used as an incubator for other people to spread some of that knowledge around. Yeah.
So in terms of the grapes that are in the vineyard, what are they all ready to harvest at the same time?
We harvest, I've played the game of, harvesting when I think each variety is ready. It's hard to do in such a small vineyard. A. B, pretty much in this climate, you push it till the end. We push it to the very last moment because you want as much sugar and as much decrease in acid and as much physiological phenolic ripeness of the grapes that you can get. So yeah, generally we look and say, let's pick a nice day at the very end of the season before frost.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers. Yeah, come on a little closer. Not drip. Oops, sorry. Not a perfect science. There we go. Let's try these, yeah.
So in terms of what you harvest, do you harvest more red grapes and white or more white grapes and red?
At this point, more red.
Okay.
Because we planted red grapes thinking, well, we'll make red, I like red wine, let's make red grapes. But in retrospect, if I were to expand the vineyard or when we do any expansion, like if we had a funny thing where we lost 5 or 6 or maybe 15 or 20 vines inexplicably this winter. They just died. Those we can't bring back. We replant with some of the white varieties. Yeah. So this is St. Croix and Leanne Malo. Leanne Malo comes out of New York State, and St. Croix is up out of the Minnesota program. But it's delicious. Isn't it good? It's got really nice, really rich. It's got a little bit of tannins to it. Yeah, it's bright. It's got bright fruit. This you could even chill a little bit. Dark cherries, plums.
Absolutely, yeah.
Try that, Nancy. It's really good. This came out great. Sorry.
So with the red, you keep it.
What?
Keep the red and not sour.
I know.
I would.
I know.
I keep them all though, because I think I like them all separately. Isn't it nice?
You like it? Yeah.
It's the smoothest you've ever made.
I think this is probably one of the best red wines.
Yeah?
I don't make a lot of
Wow.
red wine. This is I think probably the best red wine we ever made. And I had a couple of little different techniques that we used in terms of extended macerations and certain kind of just processing it in the I used a Barolo yeast.
Wow.
Yeah, so a yeast from the University of Barolo. I did just for the heck of it.
Right.
Just to try to think of a way to get the flavors to richen a little bit. And yeast has a really interesting role to play in that process. That's why I like wild yeast and everything. I think it's a very interesting thing to do.
Sure.
But there are so many wine regions that have for centuries or thousands of years had native yeasts that have developed. And if you can grab some of those and grab some of their characteristics, sometimes you can do some fun things, So I don't know. It's just we'll play with it. Yeah. Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. Came out great, right?
It's delicious.
I know.
It really
Stupid.
is. It needs food.
I know. Stupid. I need to have.
At the end, I'll cheers with my white.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Simply put, it is tough to grow grapes in Maine. But having visited the Melchevsky's harvest and seen their love for the process, the community of friends who all come together every year to work and harvest, and the ceremonial toast to the grapes that they have, I've earned tremendous respect for Steve and Nancy and their labor of love, Maine Coast Vineyards. Many thanks to Maine Coast Vineyards for giving us a tour and a taste. This has been VineTime TV with Melanie Bolduc.